Hurricane Laura has rampaged across the southern United States as thousands are out of homes, communities have crumbled, and some have lost their lives. Hello, I'm Nick Paleo.
And I'm Erin Holly. We have an exciting show today as producer Sam Long had the chance to interview Professor Dr. Mark Lashley to talk about the impact of COVID-19 on teachers. We have so much and more coming up on LTV News.
From August 31st through September 4th, explorers had the opportunity to learn more about LaSalle's over 120 student co-curricular and extracurricular organizations as part of Involvement Week. In lieu of the annual activities fair held each fall in Tom Gola Arena, students attended Zoom meet and greets and virtual Q&A sessions. On September 1st, students checked out social organizations to pursue their passions and interests. The following day, academic organizations were highlighted as students learned more about LaSalle's numerous pre-professional and major-oriented groups. On September 3rd, the spotlight was on service organizations and the many ways students can live out our LaSallian charism in pursuit of service and social justice. And September 4th saw athletics and campus recreation featured as students learned about staying active as a member of an intramural or club sport.
Are you looking for a place to share your pandemic story? Do you want students years from now to know what it's like to be living in 2020? Send your story to the LaSalle COVID Archives Project. The LaSalle University Archives wants to collect and preserve as many personal experiences from the LaSalle community as possible. Go on the portal to access a survey to get more information and have your story heard.
Are you someone who has experienced sexual violence such as assault or stalking? If you have, consider a new campus resource that is available to all students. A weekly confidential support group led by the Coordinator for Sexual Misconduct, Advocacy, and Education through LaSalle Student Wellness Services. Sessions will be held virtually in the fall semester over a confidential version of Zoom and will start the week of September 8th. Please contact Laura Cilia if you are interested in joining this group at cilia@lasalle.edu before Friday, September 4th, 2020. All inquiry conversations are confidential, and all students are eligible to seek resources from the Coordinator for Sexual Misconduct, Advocacy, and Education.
Students may be learning from home this fall semester, but that doesn't mean they won't have the opportunity to search for their dream job, internship, or co-op. The Career Center has organized a number of virtual job fairs to be held throughout the semester, featuring one-on-one and group conversations with corporate representatives. First up is the annual Accounting and Finance Networking Night to be held on September 9th. Baker Tilly, Ernst & Young, Independence Blue Cross, KPMG, and others will be on hand to provide information and maybe a job. Future job fairs organized for liberal arts, sciences, and health services majors are planned for October. You know, I really think this whole Involvement Week concept was a great idea. You know, the activities fair in the Tom Gola Arena, that's always a really big hit for freshmen to really get them involved. And given the fact that we're going to not be on campus at all this semester, it's still a great way for them to learn all about the activities we have on campus. Erin, I know you were at a couple of those.
Yeah, I think this virtual involvement week was actually a pretty good turnout. I went to two of the meetings, one for the sorority that I'm involved in and one for Explorathon, our dance marathon at LaSalle. And it was pretty good turnout. Freshmen were joining the Zoom meetings and asking questions and wondering how they can get involved. And it's just such a great thing that they can still learn about all the involvement opportunities while they're in their own houses.
Yes, agreed. I think that's a really great opportunity that everyone's able to ask questions and kind of still be involved with this whole virtual thing. But we're going to turn now to our interview. Last show, producer Sam Long had the opportunity to see how Explorientation leaders were impacted by the switch. Professors were impacted by this switch too. Sam had the opportunity to interview Professor Mark Lashley to find out how he handled the switch. Check it out.
Hello, everyone. I am back for another interview this week. Today, I'm interviewing Dr. Mark Lashley, a professor in the Communication Center. He teaches social media, media industries, common law, media criticism, just to name a few. He has specializations in studying digital literacy, social media, YouTube, and just like last week where I asked an Explorientation leader how COVID impacted what they were planning on doing, it's time to look at it from another end of the spectrum. Some teachers were ready to go back to campus. They had their lesson plans all set, and now they're back to square one. They had to replan everything out to get it ready for online. So Dr. Lashley is going to sit down and tell us what he did to kind of help it work out. So thank you for interviewing with me today, Dr. Lashley.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me.
So first, were you expecting to go fully online?
Yes, I think there's the short answer to that. I always knew it was a possibility. It just kind of, I had been following what a lot of other universities were doing throughout the country, and it felt like it was a better than even money chance that we were going to do it. Or at least that we were going to teach a bunch of our courses online and try to give people some flexibility. So we had been planning all throughout the spring and summer to kind of get ready for anything that could happen. And so I certainly planned to have my courses online if that's the way it went.
So did you have a backup plan ready in case we were able to go back? Were you going to do hybrid teaching or any fully in-person classes?
It was, I mean, as you probably remember from your end in the summertime, everything was very much in flux and nobody kind of knew what was going to happen all of the time. So I think my courses sort of went through 3 different iterations. It was like, well, we have to prepare in case it's all the way online, or we have to prepare in case it's all the way in person, or there might be some kind of other option. So I was asked if there were any courses that I could do online, and I had already taught one of my courses online in the summer, and so I figured why not just do that again. So I was comfortable taking one class, and then the other classes I had planned to do as kind of a staggered model where we'd have half the students in the class each time. And I thought that we could find some interesting ways to do that. And then by sort of the end of it, when I got asked to do another class online, I just figured it would be better to do all of them that way, especially if we were going to have to prepare for it anyway. I figured why not try to find some good ways to do online instruction that are going to benefit everybody.
Now, I have you for 2 online classes, and they are
Right.
definitely the most interactive classes I have online that I've taken so far. Do you have any advice to any teachers on how to make classes more interactive and discussion-based like you're doing?
It's hard because there's a lot of different ways to do it. I know that a lot of professors, really swear by the Zoom class and sort of doing it that way, and trying to get discussion going as much as you can. I feel like, from my perspective as somebody who's taught a lot of different ways, there are students who react really well to having to be at a certain place and be on a webcam and view things that way, and there are students who really hate that model. And I have opted to kind of present students with a lot of material and have them kind of sift through it on their own time. And then what makes a lot of work for me and to try to keep it interactive is anytime we have a discussion, I have to be an active participant in the discussion. So I'm basically, while a student can really, focus a couple of days a week and try to get everything done, I'm there every day, like all the time. And I think that's really the big difference from a professor's standpoint is the amount of stuff that gets kind of added to your workflow. What I never want to do is make students feel like I'm not paying attention. And so I try to comment or like comments at the very least, or try to help steer a conversation that a student starts, and do things like that. And also just try to, I'm trying to do more things with groups so that students get to work with one another, even though they're separated. There's a lot of little things that you can do, but I think it becomes a lot more effort for both the professor and the students to just try to keep that interaction going. But the interaction's important, so we kind of have to.
Now, discussion for students on an online board might be kind of seen as like a one and done. How do you get students to constantly engage in discussion instead of just doing it and leaving it?
Well, I think there's a couple ways. One, and I think that's going to be true for some people, no matter what. It's going to be, I kind of contributed. The first thing I did, and I've taught online classes for a long time, but what I've started to do now is to sort of design rubrics that are specific to the interaction, so that if we have discussions or some kind of discussion every week, you at least get some feedback on how much you're participating and some guidance on that from me that's coming directly from the instructor to tell you what you should be doing. And other things are like using people like discussion leaders to kind of have students have to be responsible for like a week of the class where they're leading the discussion, for example. And I think as a class, people might be more willing to stay active and participate if it's the students who are leading the discussion rather than me, who is probably the last person you want to listen to after you've watched a lecture and read the reading that I assigned to you and like all of that kind of stuff. So I try to find ways of getting individual students involved that kind of like helps to drive the whole thing. And also just some of it's just simple requirements, like you're not going to succeed on this assignment unless you follow up with the discussion that you started, or you add a comment to somebody's perspective somewhere along the line. So trying to keep that. And then I guess the last thing is, one thing that our instructional design team at LaSalle really tried to help all of us as instructors with as we were making this switch is to, give people a clear instructions on what's happening during the week, and like actually add like maybe not even required times of when you have to do stuff, because that seems silly in an online class, but like suggested times of like, well, if you do your reading on Monday and you do the rest of the lesson on Tuesday and you contribute your first discussion post on Wednesday and then you do your next discussion post on Thursday, like that's going to help you get through it. So I try to give some instructions as far as that goes to, help people. Like, you don't need to keep to this 100%, but it's going to make your life a little bit easier if you just kind of parcel it out that way.
Yeah, Canvas has been making that whole transition a little easier too. There's a lot of tools on there to try to help. I mean, including you, a lot of teachers are requiring video recordings. I have classes where I have to make podcasts. I think that's also a great way just to get students to interact. I feel like something about watching a video of a peer talking is a lot more engaging than reading a paragraph they put in a discussion post.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. I mean, and of course it's, you have to vary it, because for some students might be camera shy and don't want to do that, or have other reasons for not wanting to put themselves on camera, and that's totally valid and totally fair. So I like to have some assignments where we do have to hear from each other, but other assignments where it's totally sufficient just to write it, or share a video, or share a photo or a GIF or something, like different ways that you can participate to keep it unique and interesting, so it doesn't feel like it's the same exact thing every week, even though we do need to organize and we need to like have a workflow, but try to mix up the details as much as possible in terms of like what kind of content you need to submit to succeed in your assignment.
Yeah, well, it's definitely nice just to have that kind of variety in work we're doing. It's definitely keeping me a little more engaged than I anticipated. I went into the semester thinking, just going to be reading, doing occasional Zooms, but there's definitely a lot more engagement than I previously thought I would have.
Well, that's good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining in today, and I'm going to send it back over to the anchors.
On Wednesday, August 26th, the Philadelphia 76ers announced that the team is studying the idea of building a basketball arena at Penn's Landing. The plans, however, are not happening anytime soon. The basketball franchise had a long and strong relationship with the Wells Fargo Center, but it's exploring all options for when its lease ends at the arena in 2031. The Sixers' potential location on Penn's Landing would be between Market and Chestnut Streets. A team document has been prepared to gain momentum for the project and states why Penn's Landing would be an ideal area for the arena. It states that it would create thousands of new jobs and provide significant new tax revenue, include the creation of parks, schools, and an African American museum, and finally provide millions of dollars in net revenue for the city. A new arena could cost upwards of $1 billion, and construction is slated to begin in 2021.
Just a few blocks down Broad Street, Philly's own Temple University has found itself in hot water after reporting a massive coronavirus outbreak only days after welcoming students back to campus for an in-person fall semester. After seeing positive cases jump from 58 students to 103 in the span of 2 days, the university has announced a transition to virtual class instruction for the remainder of the fall 2020 semester. Philadelphia Health Commissioner Dr. Thomas Farley, in a message to Temple Owls, said, quote, "For any Temple student who is listening to this today, I want to be really clear. You should assume that everyone around you is infected." Farley also said contact tracing results have determined the university's outbreak is stemming from off-campus residences and student gatherings being held around campus. In response, the city's health department, in new guidance to universities, is recommending against gatherings of any size. Temple representatives are in talks with the city to develop a plan addressing this most recent crisis.
Restaurant owners in Philadelphia are eager to reopen indoor dining after being closed for 5 months due to the pandemic. Regardless of Philadelphia's ban on indoor dining being extended multiple times, Mayor Jim Kenney previously announced that indoor dining with restrictions can resume in the city on September 8th. Indoor dining in counties surrounding Philadelphia has been opened since June 5th with a 25% capacity limit. Philadelphia officials continue to monitor the current trends in COVID case rates. As Governor Tom Wolf nears a decision, he says that customers must order prepared food in order to sit indoors. Even with those restrictions, a little bit is better than nothing, said Teddy Sorius, who owns several Center City restaurants. Governor Wolf and Mayor Kenney plan to move forward doing their best to learn to live with the virus and to help local businesses. In addition to restaurant news in Philadelphia, Restaurant Week 2020 will still be underway this year. More than 100 restaurants are offering multi-course menus for $20 lunches and $35 dinners to take home or enjoy at the restaurant starting September 13th, going through September 25th.
Following months of negotiation and a now established court order, residents of the homeless encampment on the Benjamin Franklin Parkway must officially vacate the area by 9 a.m. September 9th, the city announced. The encampment is on the Von Collin Athletic Field on 22nd Street and was started in June to advocate for permanent housing for the city's large homeless population. It quickly grew with more people joining the camp into a bigger community. Supporters are donating food and paying for necessities such as water and portable toilets.
So you guys have probably heard about how Philadelphia is planning on opening indoor dining with limited capacity starting September 8th.
Yes.
Yeah, that's super exciting. I think we've been waiting for this for a really long time. It's perfect. Philly Restaurant Week is coming up in just a few weeks. I was super surprised to see that come across social media and see that they were still having the event this year. I was like, okay, takeout, it's a different thing than last year, but now they can not only do outside seating, they can also start doing some inside seating because we're seeing that coming back on the 8th in the city.
Yeah, I work at a restaurant in a neighboring county of Philadelphia, and we have had indoor dining with 25% capacity available since the beginning of June. So it's exciting to see that Philly's finally taking that step as well, and how we're going to be able to do that. And it should help small business owners of restaurants and everything.
I know it's super important now. I think, the mayors and the governors and all have had to start kind of implementing this because, we're getting into the colder months as well. So it's kind of, you can't really have outdoor dining in the winter. So I think we have to start kind of getting back to some sort of new normal, with that being getting people back into the restaurants at a smaller capacity. We still don't have a viable vaccine. So, obviously these smaller groups in the restaurants is a good start. It's really exciting, but I think it'll be interesting to see people coming back into the restaurants. We've been away for months now, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see people coming back in and actually eating in the restaurant. I know, masks are required, but, when you eat, you have to have your masks off. So, that's going to be another factor.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully everything goes well in the next coming days and everybody follows the rules and regulations in the restaurants.
The Republican National Convention took place during the week of August 24th. During that week, Republicans made their case as to why Donald Trump should remain the president and how Joe Biden might ruin the country. The convention kicked off on Monday, August 24th in the morning at the Convention Center in Charlotte, North Carolina, where President Trump and Vice President Pence met in person with the 336 delegates as they were officially nominated. During the evening, speeches took place at the Mellon Auditorium in Washington, D.C. Kimberly Guilfoyle, Nikki Haley, and Donald Trump Jr. were the main speakers. On the second night, the country heard from more of the president's family, including Tiffany Trump and Eric Trump. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo also addressed the convention remotely from Israel, where he's conducting a state visit. First Lady Melania Trump made a speech from the newly remodeled Rose Garden, giving her support for her husband, stating, "I am here because we need my husband to be our president and commander-in-chief for 4 more years. He is what is best for our country." On the third night of the convention, it was Vice President Pence's turn to make his case, stating, "We will re-elect our president and principled Republican leaders across the land. And with President Trump in the White House for 4 more years, we will make America great again." On the final night of the convention, President Trump addressed supporters from the South Lawn of the White House, the president stating, "Over the next 4 years, we will prove worthy of his magnificent legacy. We will reach stunning new heights, and we will show the world that for America, no dream is beyond our reach."
General Mills, maker of the world's beloved cereal, Lucky Charms, recently announced that they will be selling marshmallow-only packs for a limited time. Lucky Charms is only the most magical marshmallow cereal, and I'm so excited to see that families across the country help bring the magic back. Mindy Murray, Senior Brand Experience Manager for Lucky Charms, said in a statement, "One bag of magical marshmallows will cost $3.99, and all 8 of the cereal's magic charms will be in the bag. The pouches will be widely available in grocery stores this September."
Hurricane Laura struck Louisiana and Texas last week, leaving homes and communities wrecked. The Category 4 hurricane made landfall on Thursday, August 27th in Louisiana with max winds of up to 150 miles per hour. Laura is the 10th hurricane to ever hit the United States with 150-mile-per-hour winds. Our hearts and prayers are with the people affected by this tragic storm.
It has been 57 years since Martin Luther King Jr. gave his "I Have a Dream" speech in front of a packed crowd on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. It was August of 1963 when King and other civil rights leaders led a historic march in our nation's capital. The reason for the march was to draw attention to challenges and inequalities faced by African Americans. The march was credited to helping pass the Civil Rights Act of 1964. 57 years later, in 2020, the march happened again. On August 28th, thousands of people converged on the nation's capital demanding long-lasting change to systemic racism as the country reels from police killings of Black people this year that have fueled nationwide protests. Marchers, speakers, and organizers spoke about overhauls to law enforcement, expansions of voting rights, and the power of voting in November to bring change. Many expressed sorrow and frustration over the deaths of many Black Americans at the hands of police, including George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, as well as the shooting of Jacob Blake. Family members of these victims were present and had the chance to speak. Reverend Al Sharpton, Martin Luther King's son and granddaughter, were on hand to deliver speeches as well. All the participants still fighting for what MLK was all those years ago. Aaron, Nick, the Republican National Convention, we saw a much different tone than the Democrats a couple weeks ago. It was really interesting. I know, like, the first night, Kimberly Guilfoyle, who was a former Fox News host and Donald Trump Jr.'s girlfriend, I don't know if you both saw it, but she was, like, yelling to an empty arena at the TV, like, kind of saying, like, "Oh, America, the best is yet to come." I mean, it was really like, she was yelling, not really persuading a lot of people. Also, I think the big things were, the First Lady, the Vice President, and the President holding, big groups of people at the White House and, other places with no masks and no social distancing. I think the White House, it was said that 2,000 people were there. And, as I was watching the news, people were not social distancing less and also wearing a mask. I mean, it was just crazy to see. And, also this is the first time something like this has been held at the White House. We usually see a sitting president or a candidate go to a different like arena setting, but this was actually at the White House. So it was kind of on, they're saying that, the Trump campaign paid for it, but still like it's on our federal dollar. So I think campaign still needs to be separate from federal. So it was very interesting to see all the speakers and, obviously a lot of bashing on Joe Biden.
Certainly.
Well, on a more magical note, we also had some world news about the beloved cereal Lucky Charms.
That is correct.
So General Mills, the maker of the cereal, is now selling just marshmallow packs because the marshmallows are everyone's favorite part. I know, everybody loves marshmallows.
Yeah, the question is, how do you eat those? Do you just eat them out of the bag? Do you pour them in a bowl and then pour milk on top of it and just eat it like the cereal?
I'm thinking it's like not a cereal anymore. It might just be a snack now to eat out of the bag, but
that's
great for a sugar high. Pour some milk into that bag and just like drink it.
Yeah, seriously, I don't know, but I'm sure they're very popular.
Who cares about the cereal part? We just want the marshmallows.
I agree. Everyone like I talked to are saying, "Oh, I love like the marshmallows." The cereal. I've had Lucky Charms before, and like, I mean, the cereal part like is okay, but I mean, the marshmallows, that's where it's at.
That's everybody's favorite part. They just pick out the marshmallows. So why not just have a bag full of only the marshmallows?
Best part, hands down.
That does it for this episode of LTV News. Keep up with our continuing coverage and the entire LaSalle TV network online through our LaSalle TV Philly YouTube page.
Until next time, for Sam Long, Nick Paleo, and Aaron Holly, I'm Justin Gegg. Thanks for tuning in, and be safe, everyone.